my special guest, the operator behind teams that don't fail apart, don't fall apart. What agents, broker, and service business owners need to stop losing good people and start building something that lasts. No other than Miss Jennifer Staats.
Hello.
Welcome, Miss Jennifer on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah. My name is Jennifer. I am the chief of staff of Easy Home Search in Sherman. And I have been in the operations and entrepreneur journey for over a decade now, and really have built my business on helping owners scale theirs and get back more time, which I think a lot of us kind of always think things a little bit differently, where it's like, I need to work 80 hours a week in order for my business to grow. And I think of things a little different than that.
Mm. Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Jennifer. Thank you. And you are a best-selling author as well. Is it?
Yep.
I'm inviting you to be part of my book one-on-one review, and let's talk about your book itself. And you are the founder of Start Solutions.
Mhm.
But today, let's talk about the owner bottleneck: how to build a business that runs when you are not there.
Mhm.
So, Miss Jennifer, you build a business that supports real estate companies nationwide while working less than 30 hours a week and taking Thursday off. For the owner listening who feels constantly buried, what is the first sign that they will have to become a bottleneck in their own company? Yeah.
I think all of us at some point are a bottleneck in our own company. And I think you're going to continue doing that as you grow. As you bring different people or tech into your business, you're going to be the bottleneck, and kind of getting out of your own way is going to help you grow. I think I kind of first realized that when I was growing stats was when I first made my first couple hires. I realized that they weren't getting as much done because I was in their way, and I had to let go and then create systems around that so I can trust that things are going to get done without having to micromanage and look at every little step of the way. Oh, Daniel, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes, thank you, Miss Jennifer, for that empowering answer. Thank you. You started the Start Solution driven by desire to be present for your daughter's pivotal moments. Was there specific enough, is enough moment when you realized that if the business could not run without you, you'd never truly have a freedom?
I started stats when I had a newborn, and I was working full time in operations at a real estate brokerage. And there was just little things that I wanted to be present for her that I couldn't do doing a 9 to 5. My boss wasn't going to give me Thursday off to go take her to little gym type things. So I started stats with, the intention of having flexibility around doing things with my kids. I wanted to be able to pick them up. I wanted to be able to drop them off. But it turned into something much larger. And so I knew that the company I was growing was again going to stop me from being able to do that, because running multiple companies at the same time, there's no way, again, I would be able to take her to Little Gym, right? So that's when I really
Mm-hmm.
started hiring, because I knew if I wanted to give the support to these companies that I wanted to, I was going to need to hire help, and I was going to need to make sure there was systems and training in place so they could give the same type of service that I would if I was there all day. And then that in turn turned into me being able to take Thursdays off so I could be with my kids and, be intentional with my time.
So, Miss Jennifer, you talk about helping clients scale without burnout. In your experience, what is the most common way owners fool themselves into thinking they are indispensable when really they are just afraid to let it go?
So I think a lot of us are trained when we're starting businesses, I kind of touched on it before, that we need to do the grind and we need to work 12, 15 hours a day. We need to be able to do it all of ourselves. And a lot of us in the beginning of, your journey, that might be the case. You might be the best one to do every single task. But eventually, as you start growing whatever company it is, you need to get out of your own way and understand there's probably tech, there's probably people that can do things better than you can. And for multiple reasons, right? They might have more bandwidth because you've already been working 12 hours a day, or this might be their specialty. So, for instance, when I started hiring at Stats, I kind of realized, if I just let go of some of these things and I hired intentionally for these different roles, I started finding they could do things better than me, faster than me. And then it allowed me to get out of my own way and out of my employees' own way so I could really, live in my zone of genius. So I think that's what people have to think about when they're growing any business, is that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to delegate everything. You don't have to just give everything away, but you can pick certain things that maybe you don't like to do, or you're like, this just takes me too long. Like, I should never be left to my own devices with like design. I'll just spend 12 hours messing with Canva, moving things around, when my marketing director will do it in 2 seconds and it's better than I would have ever done it.
Mhm. Very well said, Ms. Jennifer. When you conduct a comprehensive audit for a client, what is the one operational red flag that immediately tells you the owner is micromanaging instead of leading?
Hmm. So when we're doing audits with existing businesses, I actually get the most information from the existing team. So I'll ask them, what is your goal? Where are we trying to go? All of those things. But then when I start talking to some of the different team members within the company, that's where I really start to figure out where the gaps are, where the bottlenecks are, and where we need to improve. You get kind of like a surface layer from a lot of our business owners, and then you kind of dig deeper to figure out where the true problems lies with, either if we're talking about a brokerage, I get it from the agents. We might get it from like their ops team or administrative team as well.
Certainly. You've been open about your journey from unpaid intern to CEO. Looking back, when were you the bottleneck in your own early business and what finally broke the pattern?
Yeah, I was definitely the bottleneck in my business. Probably not when I first started hiring, but when I started growing. And I had to just kind of realize I wasn't always the best person to do it. And I couldn't do everything myself because I wanted the company to get to a certain level. And so I had to look at it and go, okay, I've got to expand in these certain ways, and I can't micromanage. I can't see every single thing. But I kind of got to a point where I knew we couldn't bring on any other clients because I didn't have any more bandwidth to review things and be involved in meetings, all those things. So I had to restructure my company quite a bit, which has actually gotten to me to where I'm at right now. Now chief of staff of an entirely different company that I don't own. I was able to back away quite a bit from my company while it runs, while we're on this podcast.
You've said the crucial first hire is where the most owners stumble. Why is that the first hire is uniquely terrifying and what is the cause of getting it wrong?
Yeah. I find that your first hire, some people get it right, but most people get it wrong. A lot of us try to take the easy way out. I see a lot of people hire friends, family, those type of things, when really we weren't either ready for the new hire for a variety of reasons. Maybe we're not financially ready for a full-time person, or maybe we don't have good expectations even for our own self, because I find that hiring, we learn a lot of more about ourselves than even another person. And then more often you're just not ready with the tools. So do you have tech that's ready to support multiple people within your company? Do you have systems set up so you can train that person, so you can manage that person? More often than not, the answer is no. And so that person comes into the company and they're like, so what do I do? And then we as business owners that have just been by ourselves go, well, I do things all day long. And it's like, well, is it documented? Can they help us? Have we kind of like figured out what their role is going to be? And the cost of that can be, it could be really, really great, because a lot of us that don't have systems in place, we're still running the business over here. We're not paying attention to this person, and 6 months go by and you realize, oh my gosh, I never properly trained them to do everything I had intended them to do. And now we're out the salary. And then I can almost bet you that after 6 months, you look back at your production and your business growth, and I can bet you that it stunted that because you were struggling to figure out what to have them help with.
You advise owners to start delegating smaller tasks to contractors before hiring a full time employee. Walk us through that transition, and how does an owner know they're truly ready to make that leap, Miss Jennifer?
Yeah. So I generally recommend that anybody that's starting a business and it's just you, and obviously that's going to depend on a lot of things. If you are starting a company and you have a lot of funding behind you, that might be a little bit different. But a lot of us, when we're starting businesses, maybe we don't have that, or we've just been doing things ourselves. So I generally recommend to kind of, I do something with a lot of different business owners that I call my yellow pad technique. And I have them write everything down that they think they need to delegate out. And it could also include things that you just haven't gotten to. That, I want to add these things to my business, but I can't. And then I like them to look at it and figure out, okay, are there chunks of that we could delegate out to one person, right? We don't want to give like creative tasks to an ops person. Every once in a while, there's those unicorn type of hires, but look at that. Is it bookkeeping? Is it something that you can simply go hire a contractor for $100, $200 a month, and that's their thing to do? Get that off of your plate. Can we maybe do social media? There's different things we can do where we don't have to hire a full-time person right off the bat. You can get those small tasks off to a contractor, and then when you're ready, you can take it back in-house. Now you have, a role for a full-time person. Maybe they do social media, your website, etc. But I like to kind of compartmentalize it at first and then bring it in-house once I feel like I'm ready.
Miss Jennifer, what's your philosophy on hiring culture fit versus hiring for a gap
Mm.
filing? When an owner is trying to remove themselves from a daily operations, which matters more?
I think culture fit's going to matter much more. I'm the type of person where, we're growing really quickly at SureSend. And we might have some people that apply that are the perfect fit on paper, but then I'm going to connect with them and just know they're not going to work at the level that we all run at. It's just not going to work culturally. So I'd rather hire someone with a little less experience, a little less fit, that we know is going to be able to fit within our culture and move at the pace we do, because we're such a fast growing company and there's so much tech involved. I think culture is going to make a way bigger difference. I like being able to trust that our team's going to do things when I ask them to do things, not just their resume.
So, Ms. Jennifer, you emphasize following your gut instinct in hiring. How do you distinguish between intuition about candidate and just being a desperate to offload work?
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's why a lot of us that on our first hire make that mistake, because a lot of times by the time we're ready to hire, we are desperate. We're like, I have to do this, or I can't do this thing. I can't bring this client on.
Mhm.
And I want everyone to just pause there and think about what could happen if you bring the wrong person in. And I'm firsthand can tell you that I've brought the wrong people onto the team, and it created weeks and months of just headache for me where I'm like, why is this person still around? And that's my fault, right? So I go into hiring much slower. Do your due diligence, ask the right questions, do a video call, meet one on one, make sure that their answers match what you know about them, and then really trust your gut. Because there's been multiple times where I was like, something's just off about this person. I just can't put my finger on it. But their resume looked great, their answers seemed like they all made sense. And sure enough, it was just they were either lying or they just weren't a culture fit down the road. So really stick to your guns, trust yourself. If you're feeling like it's not a good fit, it probably isn't. Take a little bit more time to find other candidates.
Mhm. Very well said, Miss Jennifer. Let's talk about the system over personality.
Mhm.
You've said great system is not necessarily fancy or techy.
Mhm.
It's something you can easily replicate every single time. For an
Yep,
owner who's never documented anything, where do they even begin?
I know. It's overwhelming, right? We look at it like,
Mm,
how am I going to document an entire system? And if you think about it as a business owner, if you're doing things by yourself, where do I start? I'm busy every single day. There's all sorts of things. And that's where I always say, like, let's start out small, right? Let's start out with just a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, or like I said earlier, with like the yellow pad. Let's just write down everything you're doing every day. Okay. And I work mostly in the real estate space, so a lot of it has to do with transactional stuff, but it's all going to be the same thing. What happens when you get a client? Here's all the things you do. Maybe you send them a welcome email, maybe you send them a contract, maybe you add them into your CRM. Start real small there. There you have a system, right? A system you can replicate. And then people will be like, well, now I've got to create contracts and templates and all of these things. I'm like, wait, wait, wait. I can bet you already have it. You've already been doing it. Let's look in your outgoing emails. Okay, what did you send that client? Okay, great. That's the start of an email template. Great. What did you send this to this client? There's your basis of your contract. And all of a sudden you have a system that you already had, but we tend to overthink it, right? We're like, well, it's got to be branded and it's got to do this. And it's got to, no, start out small, and then when you're ready to put it in something like a CRM or something like that, you have the basis of your steps. So now you can say, okay, this person comes in, they're a lead. I change them to this stage. This email goes out. I mean, and then we can make it fancier over time because now this system can now be either delegated out to someone else or put into a tech tool and you don't even need a person to do it. And now you're like, okay, now my client intake is now automated. Now what do I want to do with my time? Okay, well, it would be really nice when I close a client, they get a gift and da da da. Great. Now we create some another system for things that we've never done but we want to, and now we can create, improve the client experience. So I always like to start it real simple because everyone gets really overwhelmed and then they just will never do it, and then we can build on that from there.
baby steps, people, baby steps. You've talked about using technology, including AI, to streamline process without eliminating human element. Where do you see AI making biggest difference for owners trying to escape the daily grind?
Mm-hmm. I think when AI first got, introduced to our society, we were instantly thought, oh, this is going to replace humans. 100%. And we're not wrong in certain elements of our business, but what I found with most of our clients is that it's just helping us do more. So, rather than, social media, before you could post 2 days a week because it took you that much time to create graphics and content. Now, maybe you can post 5 or 6 days a week. So you don't necessarily need to get rid of your social media manager, but you can now have them do, 10 times more with the same exact budget. Same thing within SureSend. Like, we have AI built into SureSend to help you do more and be able to spot who you need to follow up with. It's not necessarily replacing a whole human, but it's allowing us as business owners to go, oh, it's telling me to do this. I'm going to go here. So I think it really just kind of helps us, with content, with graphics, with strategy. I mean, I'm in AI all day, but you can start with just some basic things and then it can really kind of elevate your business.
Miss Jennifer, what's the difference between a business held together by the owner's heroic efforts and one held together by strong systems? Can you give us a concrete example from your work with the brokerage?
Yeah. So I think a business held together by just, grit is where a lot of us are in the beginning, and some continue to be overall. They're the business owner that you call on a Friday night. They're the business owner that can't take vacations. I've had those clients before where they came to me, had just gotten out of the hospital because they had a heart attack. They couldn't even handle how much work They were in the office 7 days a week. They basically held it all together themselves. But I had, one of those clients in particular came to me and was like, I can't do this anymore. I need help. I need to be able to leverage people. And so we just went through and just created systems on everything that kind of took that owner out of it, right? Like, how can we create all of those systems? So yes, they still own their business. They have oversight on everything. It's every single step is the stuff that they've been doing, but we took it all off of their plate. And we got it to the point where, they didn't even know what was under contract anymore because they were just out there, closing deals and making money and didn't have to have the headache of all of the day-to-day issues. So I think if you can get there, the system-led business is the way to go. So you can do other things. You don't have to be the person who goes and takes vacation, but you can go start another company, or you can do other things and use your time in the best way possible.
Definitely. And you started Stats Solutions with a vision for work-life balance. Now that you achieve it, what surprised you the most about what happens when the business truly runs without you?
Yeah. So I think what I treasure most is I am obviously doing a lot. I have a company. I also run SureSend, and to most, that's just too much, right? But I'm able to still create it where I can drop my kids off in the morning. I can pick them up in the afternoon. Next week, I'm going to go volunteer in the classroom. And I don't think most people can say they do that, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that actually question, or is Jennifer a stay-at-home mom? And I'm definitely not. But I can do those things with my kids, or I can be a little bit more flexible with what they've got going on. I think actually the thing I treasure the most is when they're sick, I can be home with them. Like, I can sit, and I still work. I'm not saying I'm not working, but I can sit next to them. Ooh, no barking. I can sit next to them and they can be sick.
No worries at all. No worries. So, Miss Jennifer, to wrap up our discussion for today, for the owner who's listening and feels terrified that if they step back, everything will fall apart, what would you say to them based on everything you've learned about scalable operations?
They just have to trust what they do. So if you're going to put systems in place, you're going to put tech in place, you're going to put people in place, you need to trust what you're doing. And then you also need to be able to double check what you put into place. So don't just set it and forget it and think that everything's going to be fine, but really have good systems in place so you know what's happening.
Certainly, definitely. So, Miss Jennifer, can you please invite the listeners to support your business, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are any type of a business owner and you're looking to create systems just like what I talked about, go over to suresend.ai. It is an amazing tool that we've just built, a CRM. It's got tons of automations, AI, all of the things, and a great support system to back you up.
Yes, people, support Miss Jennifer, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering business like this to rise. So, Miss Jennifer, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, people. See you soon.